YouTube Vinyl Community, ePotty fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens. We're joined here today for an episode of What's Your Spin with the one and only ePotty. How's it going? Good to see you again.
Hi, good to see you too. I'm doing really good, just grinding and doing everything that I love with music.
As we all should. For those who don't know you specifically, you have a huge presence on TikTok. You have great little segments about red flags and green flags. You interview people, especially putting such an emphasis on up and coming people that other people should know more about. How would you describe your presence on TikTok and what fuels you to make your videos?
Honestly, just creating a space where I'm able to expand both my own music tastes and helping other people do the same, I think is so important. I think a lot of times with music, we can get into a rut and listen to the same things, but there's so much out there. And if I can be a small part of spreading that and just spreading awareness towards smaller artists, sometimes I listen to a song and say, I just can't. Like, I can't live with the fact that someone might not hear this. So that's kind of like what fuels me. And then also just the main point of music really being like the breath of life and passion and love, and it's really the source of all of that. And so I know that if I'm doing a small part in recommending music to other people, that it could really help them in some way, because music helps all of us. It's we need it.
Absolutely, completely agree. And I love that you find different artists and different songs and promote them because you've got such a platform that people could be like, oh wow, they'll see this and go out and experience this artist. So that's gonna be kind of a fun feeling as well to like know that you've like influenced a taste and someone might discover the new favorite artist because of it.
I swear, out of all the comments or messages I get, like some of the best messages I've ever gotten have been from especially younger people just messaging me and saying, I never listened to Father John Misty, but he's my favorite artist now. Like, thank you so much. His music has changed my life. And I'm like, oh my God, like that is the coolest thing ever because he's changed my life too. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I just like, I'm so thankful for that. So I just want to spread it to other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not completely understand. I mean, I get messages all the time with the Beach Boys stuff. People will be like, "Hey, I discovered your videos. I just played these albums for the first time, and I'm really digging it." And it's like that's such a rewarding feeling to be like, "Hey, this is something I love, and I think you'll dig it too."
Mhm.
Um, and speaking of which, the reason why we're here for What's Your Spin, it's a show where we put focus on the positive and talk about artists that you love and why people should dig them. The internet is such a downer place to be sometimes, and I want this little show to be something fun and light where we can chat about somebody you're really into. So, who's the artist you want to chat about tonight?
I had a hard time thinking, but it actually became really easy when I remembered how much I'm loving Quadeca right now.
Quadeca, an artist that defies genres. Well, Ipari, what's your spin on Quadeca? Why should we dig into his music?
I have found him in the past 2 or 3 years. When I was posting videos, doing like album recommendations, I kept getting a lot of comments saying, you should listen to this album by Quadeca. You should listen to this. And I was like, who the heck is this? And the album was I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. So I played it on a long Amtrak train ride and I was completely hooked. I was like, oh my God, I've never heard anything like this before. The story that he's telling is so distinct and unique. And so I just became really fascinated by him and his story. He's so young, and I feel like with just a few projects, he's made such gigantic strides in his musical creativity. And I kind of feel like it's been so cool to watch someone where I say, I think that this might be one of the best producers coming up right now,
Yeah,
like a true innovator. When I was younger, I saw other people coming up, but I was almost too young to be able to conceptualize it.
yeah,
But now I'm an adult and I can see someone from the beginning and be like, oh my God, I think this might be that next big person, that next big artist, that innovator that people will look back on and say, this person truly made a difference within music. So I think that's something that's been really interesting for me to appreciate that I would love to share with other people. Um, he only has two studio albums, I believe, out right now. And I just find it really fascinating how his career started. I think he kind of started as like a YouTuber, gamer, like almost like a spoofer. And I think a lot of people just like didn't really take him seriously. And then, and again, with these past two albums, he's created music with such high quality
Yeah.
that I don't know. It just goes to show that you can start anywhere and become whoever you want to be, um, and you don't have to box yourself into wherever you start.
Yeah. That's a really good way to sum up his style. So you mentioned being younger and not really being able to contextualize production or how a song is made or the emphasis behind it or the feeling, but now you're at the point where you can kind of constructively take apart a song and evaluate it in a different level of maturity and the depths that come with it. What does it mean to you to dig into his discography and watch it grow? And you've been there for a couple of years now because he's only been putting music up for what, 3 or 4 years, something like that,
Just about,
like on
yeah.
the regular. What does it mean for you to see him grow so much? Because when Scrapyard came out last year, I remember hearing that being like, "What is this?" It's like all over the shop. So it's so different from Haunt You. What has your music criticism brain been feeling when you watch his career take these next steps?
I think something that I'm looking at critically is just how authentic this transition for him seems. He started off with I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, which I think is a very genuine album. It comes from a very sincere and personal and dark place. And then with Scrapyard, it's almost like it's deeper, but in a different way, in a bit more of a scattered way. And then with thinking about this new music that he has coming out, especially with the single Foregone that came out 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure if you've heard that.
Yeah,
But there's just something so audacious about what he's doing on there. It's it's so heady but so unpretentious at the same time. You can really tell that he just wants to create something that's utterly beautiful in a new and different way. Something that I just love about his music and his growth is that um I just I love that I love any artist that completely expands beyond genre. And I think that's the most interesting thing that I've seen within his music too. It's not just one thing, it's anything. And anytime, my friends were looking at my Spotify wrapped and they were like, "Oh, who's he?" And I was like, "Oh, he makes like pop, industrial, hip hop, electronic music." And I was like, these are just words at this point, but it's just so cool when you can listen to something and say, I've never heard anything like this before.
yeah. I mean, it's a good point about like, genre bending because like I feel like we're entering an era now where like so much music and bands that have been established for a while are changing their sound and not necessarily sticking to one thing. Like Turnstile is a huge example of that right now.
Mhm.
Like they started off as hardcore kids and now they're incorporating so many other elements of like the Police or like Black Sabbath. Like they have different sounds on this new record. The Callous Cowboys, another band that's kind of like Fall Out Boy, that's hardcore. What does it mean to you to watch someone so confident like Quadeca make these sounds that are so natural and flowing to the next stylistic shift, if you want to call it that, in an era where genre might be kind of disappearing? How exciting is that for you to see that he might be like a pioneer to some of these changes?
It's incredibly exciting for me, especially when right now we're seeing such a strange thing become popularized in music, especially through TikTok. This kind of uniform commercialized sound with artists or sounds like Benson Boone. You could say that Mr. Alex Warren, who came up on TikTok,
Hmm.
even Addison Rae to a certain degree, just kind of like regurgitated sounds that you hear over and over again.
Yeah,
Start to say, where is music going? Where is pop going? And then to be able to find and listen to an artist that instead of going with the norm is completely going the opposite way and breaking outside of that
yeah,
and making some incredibly bold stylistic choices with his music, and not being afraid of people not getting it or people not listening. That's something that I feel why people gravitate so much towards JPEG Mafia.
yeah,
you know he makes music that a lot of people would listen to and say, who on earth would listen to this? What on earth is this? But it's just so beautiful to see someone and be able to look at them and say, you are an absolute innovator and creator and
Yeah.
you're taking music to places that it might not have otherwise gone without you like blazing that trail.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear things like that because, and you mentioned Benson Boone and Addison Rae, like, those are sort of formulaic pop structures that have always worked, and so they're always going to be around. What does it mean to you to try to influence the masses with Quadeca? Because I wasn't Scrapyard your album of the year last year?
It was, yeah.
So like, I vaguely remember the comments, people being like, "Who is this?" or "Scrapyard, really?" Like, what does it mean for you to have an artist like Quadeca be your top artist of the year and like tell people, like, spread the gospel of him? Like, why is that important to you for people to know about his music?
I think for me, something that I try to preach to my audience is that music is something that should more often than not almost always be challenging. You should always be challenging yourself to expand, like I was saying at the beginning, expand your music taste. You should also always be challenging yourself to listen to something outside of the box, different from what you grew up listening to or different from what you're accustomed to.
Yeah,
Um, and if you're doing that, by listening to artists like you know Quadeca or JPEG Mafia or whoever it is, um, you are part of this shift towards enhanced creativity for the future.
yeah, it's like you're making the path for what other things will just copy down the road and become the norm at some point. Um, when you listen to his new track, I guess the album's coming out this year, this summer
Yeah,
maybe.
I think this
Um,
summer I'm like crossing my fingers until like he has a concert coming up in October in New York.
oh yeah.
Uh, so I think October, yeah. I think it should be before then.
What do you hope for this album? What do you think it's going to happen with this one?
I would love to see, okay, so like a track like Foregone, it's a little bit more of an emotional ballad with some of those elements of his like experimental shift,
Yeah,
but it almost reminded me a little bit of Black Country New Road, their record Ants from Up There, with just how grandiose and emotional and cathartic their ballads were.
yeah,
Um, Quadeca is someone, again, like I said, is very young, so there's so much room there to really have these explosive emotional moments.
yeah,
So I would really love to see him use this album as a canvas to kind of explore uh, more of these themes of heartache and love and loss. Because again, I think he's 23 or 24.
oh my God.
Yeah, like he's
He's a
at an age
little
where
one.
he's a baby. Like he's at an age where he might be experiencing his first real heartbreak.
Yeah,
And there's really nothing like that.
no.
Like nothing will ever compare to that. So, I would love to see him use this album as a place to kind of explore feelings like that, feelings of coming into your own, because obviously he's someone that's finding himself stylistically, creatively, and maybe on a personal front, and just kind of going full on balls to the walls with it,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really going as deep as you can with exploring these emotional depths. Something that I love about that Ants from Up There record is that when I recommend it to people for an album to listen to for when you're sad, I always preface it by saying, just make sure that you're really sad. Because if you're not, it might come off as almost like too melodramatic or too
Sure,
intense.
sure.
But again, that's something that's beautiful. Like experiencing emotions to the deepest degree that you can feel them is so important, and
Yeah.
having artists that you can listen to that aren't afraid to explore that is so important. So that's kind of what I would really love to see from him on the new record, as well as again, this continuation of completely breaking outside of the mold of any genre conceptualizations. I know he kind of came up being known as being a hip hop artist, but we're kind of seeing him expand outside of that more
Yeah.
and more. So I'd be curious to
Yeah.
see what he could do, even further breaking out of that.
Do you find that being vulnerable, and I'm being vulnerable in music is always a tough line to cross because you're not really sure how much of yourself you want to give, and you're never really sure how the audience will take it. But do you find that that artists who are more experimental are more vulnerable, or do you feel like people who, create pop music like a Benson Boone, is there a level of emotional vulnerability in those tracks that are much more digestible? Do you feel like people are more honest when they're more experimental?
I definitely think that there can be an argument made for the artists that are not afraid to be more experimental or bold with their music are probably also more willing to be experimental emotionally
Yeah,
as well. Um, again, if we're using the Benson Boone example, I think that it probably works for some people because he's exploring emotions that everyone feels on a bit of a surface level.
right.
Um, but let's say we're taking again a very specific artist like Quadeca, and he's going to the absolute depths of any emotion that he's experienced.
Yeah,
Um, it's maybe won't be as relatable for other people, but someone who's a really good music listener is still able to empathize and understand music without actually having to have had those experiences. Um,
yeah.
it's why maybe anyone can be able to enjoy Kendrick Lamar. Maybe they don't have those shared experiences, but they're able to grasp the lyrics and the depth of what he's saying and be able to enjoy it and, take it in as well.
Which, I mean, that could explain why people love the craziness of JPEG Mafia. It's like you don't live those stories, but they're fun. Some of them are.
Exactly, exactly. And I don't know, there's something so rewarding, I think, with being emotionally vulnerable in your lyrics. I think you'll hit a lot of people if you're talking about the basic surface level emotions,
Yeah,
and your music will do well, but you won't hit them as deeply.
I agree. I agree.
Like it won't sit as much for other people. And 20 years down the line, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that are saying, wow, like Benton Boone is an artist that really made a difference in my life.
That guy hit
Where
hit the nail on the head right there. When he's saying about that ice cream, I felt it.
I felt it. I know. And that's the thing. He's singing about love, but in such a generic and almost cartoonish way
I
that it
know.
might feel good in the moment. But again, 20 years down the line, I don't think anyone's really going to remember that.
That's the thing is like shallow pop music has a place. It always will. But how often do people cite shallow pop music 20 years down the road? They cite the innovators that changed the path to create the next wave of shallow pop stars. And I'm not
Mhm.
just crapping on Benson Boone. It's just like he is what he is for a reason. That's okay. People love him. That's fine. That's great. But like with someone as intelligent as Quedeca and for being so young and having already shifted sounds a couple of times, it's exciting to see where he's going to go because like he's a little unpredictable, but he's honest. And I think that's kind of what draws people in.
Oh yeah. I'm so just fast again. I'm so drawn to artists that aren't afraid to do something completely out of the norm, completely out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Um, and I just really love an innovator. Again, I think that's kind of the thing for me is getting so excited to be able to experience who is perhaps the next Bjork or like
Yeah.
I hate to mention him because obviously, but like the next Kanye West in terms of production and impact on music for the future.
Yeah.
Um, it's really exciting being able to say, okay, this is the next person and this is where this is going and what could this look like in 20 years and who else are they going to impact with their music and how much more can we challenge ourselves with the music that we listen to? Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we don't want this regurgitated TikTok music. Almost no one
Absolutely.
does.
Absolutely not. Especially music coming up that's just ripping everybody else off.
Yeah.
Well,
God, that's a whole other conversation.
yeah, we'll chat about that again some point. But two questions for you, ePotty. The first one, I'm gonna flip the script on you. Quedeca, red flag or green flag?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh gosh, this is hard.
Uh-oh.
I'm this is hard. I'm going to have to say, okay, it's leaning red. It's 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 leaning okay, in reality it is green because again, I think his music is so challenging and anyone that is willing to listen to something that's different, out there, unique, um, is a total green flag in my mind.
Sure.
The reason why I say red is just very specific. I just feel like there is a certain brand of artists that really flourish on the internet and within the internet population.
Hmm.
And he's one of them. He's just kind of one of those artists that really resonate with the onliners,
Yes.
you know, and it can get a little scary to meet someone that's a little too chronically online.
Sure.
Uh,
Valid.
Maybe a little too deep in Reddit, a little too deep on Rate Your Music. And unfortunately, when you make really creative and bold and, you know, obscure music, you're going to kind of attract those people that are a little pretentious about their music tastes.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Um, and last question for you, ePotty. This is my favorite question that I ask. If an alien from outer space knocked on your front door and said, "Which Quadeca album should I listen to? It's my gateway album into his discography," what would you recommend?
Oh my gosh. Um, I would have to say Scrapyard, just because I think it has a little bit of everything. Um, he has like that one guide dog, just like a 2 minute long, almost like country-esque ballad. He has Texas Blue, which is a beautiful, softer outro with just like the most wonderful lyrics. And then some songs that are just totally out there, like Being Yourself, that kind of just meander in this weird space for about 3 minutes until it completely lets loose at the end. And
Yeah,
it's there's so much fun to listen to. And also just a song that I think an alien would quite enjoy because they'd say, this kind of sounds like what I listened to back home.
it's spacey. Yeah.
And then I love a song like Even If I Tried, just how, it starts off really hard and then it ends in that final minute so like bombastically with these huge like like chord riffs. Like it's so beautiful and I just want everyone to hear it.
That's exactly the spirit of the show. It's like it's beautiful and you want people to hear it. It's perfect. That sums
Yeah.
it up. ePotty, this has been great chatting about Quadeca. It's so cool. An artist that I think I agree more people should know about too. Where can people find you online?
I am on TikTok. You can find me at ePotty with an underscore. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm posting more there as well as with some extra behind the scenes posts there too. So definitely make sure to check me out on both.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And everybody go follow ePotty online, dig her videos, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. But thanks for watching.
Bye.